everyone. Welcome to PJFM in Conversation and opening night of the 41st Annual Philadelphia Jewish Film Festival. My name is Olivia Antsis, and I'm the Executive Artistic Director of PJFM. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with some key members of the filmmaking team for Wet Dog. In the house, we have director Damir Lukashevich.
Hi, I'm Damir Lukashevich. I'm the
director. Sorry, Lukashevich.
Don't worry, it's okay.
All right. And we have a German-born Persian Jewish graffiti artist turned spokesperson for the IDF, not to mention the author of the autobiography on which Wet Dog is based, Arye Sharuz Shalicar.
Hey, what's going down, Philadelphia?
We're all doing very well now that we're with you guys. And we have not one, but two of the film's lead actors, Duhan Kabadai, who plays Sohail, and I hope I'm saying that right, and Mohammed, yes. Great, and Mohammed El Iraqi, who plays Hussein. Thank you so much. And thank you all for being here. It's really a pleasure to have you. So I'd like to start the conversation with Damir. Can you tell us how this film came to be?
Yeah, that's a long story. I was doing a documentary about young people who made staging a play in the district in Berlin called Wedding. And Wedding, you have to know, is a district where you have a lot of Turkish and Arab people. And all the young people I was working with, they had also Turkish and Arab background. And by chance, I read Arye's book at that time, which was very much luck for me. And I read that book and I was very impressed. And I thought, I have to meet Arye. And because if I could have the rights to do this film based on his story or inspired by his story with all the energy and the passion with the young actors, then this could be really good movie. And by chance, Arye, who was at that time still, already he lived in Jerusalem, but he was in Germany at the time, in Berlin, reading from his book. And I went straight to the Jewish community where he read. And I introduced myself and I said, hello, I'm Damir. I want to make a big movie based on your story. And Arye was smiling, just like now.
And what year was that? What was the time frame between then and now?
It was 10 years ago, 2011.
Wow, wow. So then what happened next, Arye? Like, did you hear back from Damir and when, and then how did you come to work with him?
When Damir approached me, I thought he's making a big joke about everything. Like, I couldn't imagine. It was my first book. And, publishing your first book, it's already a great thing, and then suddenly someone turns on, coming by saying he wants to do a movie out of your story. It sounded a bit strange to me. So I didn't believe in it in the beginning. But Damir kept on talking to me and phoning me even in Jerusalem. And every time I visited Berlin, he wanted to meet, and he wanted to meet my friends and Wedding, my district where I was raised. And he met my parents. And throughout the coming years, basically, I met here every couple of months. And we spoke hours over the phone. And I started understanding that this guy is not joking. He's very serious about the mission. I started believing in him and the story to be on the screen as well.
Thank you. So Damir, can you talk about the process of getting the film made? So you're having all these meetings with Arye and you're trying to figure out what exactly you want to capture in your film, what are going to be the most dominant themes you're going to explore in the film. But in the meantime, you need to get funding, you need to get the rights. Like, can you talk about that process?
It was a long process. At the beginning, the first 2 years, I didn't have the rights because Arye, I don't know if you remember, the rights went at the beginning to somebody else, to a different production company. long process because there was not a story at the beginning, but and the thing is, and maybe afterwards the two main actors can also tell a little bit more about it. One thing that was very important was to find the language of the young people. And what I did at one point was to make a theater play at the same school where Arye 20 years ago was a scholar. And with those people over there at the same school, which also had Muslim background, we improvised a lot. So I gave them the character arcs, I gave them the plot and the story, and they improvised. And so this was the first step to write the screenplay, because if you don't have a screenplay, you cannot find somebody who can give you money. And also in Germany, it's a little bit difficult to find money for such a project because it's only young actors and nobody know them. And it's very important in Germany to have stars, maybe similar like in the United States, but here it's even, I think, even more difficult. So that was also very, very difficult for us to find the money. And we were lucky at the end that the Warner Brothers, which is a big studio, American studio, stepped in and financed the film.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. So how did you come to cast Dohan and Mohammed? Were they in that school that you were just talking about?
Well, it was 2016 and we shot the film 2019. So I did the same process once again when we did the casting. I also, we had maybe 100 young actors from Germany, but mostly from Berlin. And I also gave the same thing. I didn't give out the screenplay, which I already had written, but I just said, this is the story, and we improvised the whole film once again. And nobody did know the role that he or she was going to play. And also what was very important for the improvisation was that everybody played also the Jewish boy. So they got the chance to switch the perspective and to get into the skin of the Jewish boy and to feel what he feels. And so it was not clear who is going to play Hussein, who's going to play Sohail, and so on.
Mm-hmm. So this was in 2019 when you did this all again. This was when Dohan and Mohammed were both doing this, right? And
That's
so.
Right.
And so, Dohan, you got a chance to play other characters at this point. Yes. And so how did you feel about this process? Because it's a very unique process. I don't hear this a lot from directors.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. And the casting was not as usual as as an actor. Most auditions look like this. You get sent your scenes a couple of days before, and then you prepare them and perform them. And it's like you kind of prepare, go and act all in one day and within 10 to 15 minutes, and then it's over. And then they say to you, okay, you're done and you can go home. And they basically tell you will hear from us or you will not. And with this project, it was completely different. It was a long process, and it was really a marathon and a beautiful journey. And yeah, it started like the first thing everyone had to do was giving an interview, and if you did well, you were invited to a live casting workshop, which took many months. And in that time, we roughly went through the story of the film and improvised a lot, but still without being given a script. And I remember it was during my summer holidays, and when we did that workshop thing, and during this time we really started to get to know each other better and get to know our characters better, and especially to get to know ourselves better. And and for that we met like twice a week for like 2-3 months, and we improvised a lot, went through different scenes and did a lot of exercises, and more importantly we had a lot of fun doing that. And I think the special thing was that everyone, like Dami said, was allowed to play each character and was able to try things out, to get to know each character and to change the perspective. And so Dami could see which person fits to which character. And there was something Dami also insisted to do, which I'm very grateful for, because it really helped us to it really helped us and also gave us many opportunities to show different sides and facets of us. And it was challenging, which is good.
Thank you very much. So Mohammed, because you got to play so many different characters, and in that, I feel like that must have bonded you much more to your fellow actors around you, because you all got to experience what each other would experience every time you're taking on a new role. What I noticed about your performance is that you were just very, very genuinely loving towards Dohan's character, Sohail. Like, you could tell there was just a bond between you. You had so much love for your fellow brother. So can you talk about how you prepared for the role of Hussein and how it came to be that your performance just seemed so authentic and true in this friendship between both your characters?
The reason why the role becomes so good, not so difficult, is because of the process before. What we do together with Dawn and the another actors, and Dawn is my real friend, and the role Sohail was also my friend, and that was not so difficult for me because I didn't know that I played three roles, three characters. Oh, Arye? 3 characters?
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah, 3 characters. I didn't know that, and I just play it, and I just feel it because there was one of the important roles. Yeah, I just feel it. I just feel it because the actor was my real friends.
Say something to that?
Oh yeah, of
because
course.
it's really
please help me, bro.
No, because it's really wonderful, because like I made friends for life through this film, and being there alone was very special. It was truly a labor of pure love, and we laughed together, we cried together, we did almost everything together. And often people say, like, it wasn't like it in this case, it wasn't like during or after the shoot that we grew together as a family. It was before I even started shooting. And the reason for that was the special casting process and the time we had to prepare for the film. So we all got to know each other about months before and before starting shooting. And you can really say that the film wouldn't be the way it is if we hadn't gotten along so well and had spent so much time together beforehand. And the chemistry we developed on and off screen was crucial for the film, but was also important to us because it helped us to create an atmosphere that allowed us to just let go and to live in the moment, to be present, and most of all, to have fun. And we just felt comfortable. And for me, that was so special about this movie. It was the time of my life. Yeah.
Well, you both did an amazing job. I mean, you really just, your energy, the authenticity, all of it was there. It was just a joy to watch both of you on screen the whole time. You get very, very into the characters. And I can tell you that everyone on our screening committee who saw the film, at the end, there's just, not a dry eye between the both, watching both your stories. But we'll get to the end shortly. But I want to know, Arye, when did you first meet Dohan, and did you work with him? Because he's portraying you up on the big screen. So did you have any influence on how you would be portrayed?
The thing about the movie is that actually I never met Dohan before. And even when they were recording and producing the whole thing, I just, Damir invited me for a little role in a movie. I don't know if you know that I was part of the movie myself. I'm one of the teachers. You can see me maybe for 10 seconds in the movie. So I went to Berlin to take part in the movie myself. So that was the first and last time I basically met Dohan and Mohammed and Deria and all the other actors, and they had no clue who I am and what my life was about. So, and they were not allowed to read my book, actually, to not confuse them, because my book is a bit different than the movie. But the interesting thing about it is that Damir, because he spoke so much with me, And we met so often. And he met my parents and my sister and my brother and my friends. And we went through the streets of Wedding again and again. He met even my teacher who threw me out of the school. So he basically had a very good idea of who I am. And that's why Doan is a perfect match of my character without even knowing me.
That's
Crazy.
great. Yeah, I mean,
It's crazy.
you can tell
Yeah.
that Mir really did his due diligence to really understand where you were coming from. Like, what did you see when you walked to school? You know, who were the people in your life? What was your family like? I mean, that's very important for bringing this character to life because it's based on a real person. So something you just said, Arye, I'd love to know, what are some of the differences between the book that you wrote and what we see on screen?
You know, the difference, there is a few differences, even very big differences between my book, which is based on reality, and the movie, which is inspired by my story. One of the differences, which is very central, is what Mohammed just said, that Mohammed is not playing one character, he's playing three characters in one person. So Mohammed is playing my best friend in the movie, but in real life, Mohammed was three persons: my best friend, who was Turkish, a gang leader who was Turkish too, and the third person, a Arab, very influential Arab clan member of my neighborhood. So these three persons were very central in my youth. And Mohammed is playing all three in one. So that's one difference, is that I had we're talking about the girls in my life as a youth. You know, you can't, Damir explained, I didn't like it too much because, you know, I had a girlfriend, a Croatian girlfriend all these years, and she's not part of the movie. And I said to Damir, you know, but he said, you know, it's a movie. You can't, you know, you can't come up with 30 characters now. You have to minimize kind of, so people can understand what we're talking about. But the rest, you know, is very much similar. The whole anti-Semitism coming from many in my neighborhood, I guess you got a sense of what it's like to be the only Jew in a Muslim-dominated neighborhood of Germany. And to sum up, you know, in real life, it was heaven and hell at the same time living there. I think in the movie, you can maybe feel that too, that for me, on the one hand, it was heaven because I loved my friends. And on the other hand, it was hell because I had to live with fear and I had to hide and I had to run. And as a 13, 14, 15-year-old young boy, it's sometimes very, very scary and annoying.
Let me ask Dahan and Mohammed first. What did you find the most challenging and the most rewarding playing the ultimate roles that you did play in the film?
Yeah, I think that's a difficult question to me because I think that acting is always kind of challenging. I think sometimes it's even more challenging to say one word or one sentence than to do a whole monologue. And as an actor, you always kind of struggle with your own lack of talent. And with each project, you start from the very beginning. And yeah, I always say acting is an art form, and art is limitless. You can always learn something new and discover a new facet, and it keeps you on your toes. And to say, yeah, I think it's, yeah, sure. I think everything is challenging, but maybe like the most or the emotional scenes, they are also, especially them, are also very challenging. But for me, it's like everything. Acting is always challenging because you always want to be better. You always want to become better, and that's a marathon and not a sprint. So yeah, I think everything is challenging for me.
Our biggest challenge was after make the movie, to say goodbye to the characters, to say goodbye to Hussein or to Suhail. And I think that was my biggest challenge, and that what Dawn Don calls me every day after the movie. What should I do now? What I do now without the people? What I do now without another actors? And yeah, and that movie was so special for us. There was because we grown up in that movie, in that project, and the special process what we did before in the workshops, and that was very, very special.
So right now in Wedding, are there any Jewish families living there? Like, have Dohan and Muhammad, like, are you in contact in your real life with any Jews, or was this story maybe like the closest experience where you really understood like what it was like to be Jewish, perhaps in Germany in general, but also specifically in Wedding? So can you speak to that?
Racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, discrimination, or hate in any shape or form exists. Here now, it's happening. It has never stopped happening, and that's the hard truth. And it's just terrible what's happening in the world. And I think every single one of us must and should fight against injustice in this world, especially we in this young age. We are the future, and we have a voice, and we should use it, and we can have such an impact. Only this way we have a chance. And I think I also have, apart from that, I have a friend who's also Jewish, and unfortunately he was confronted with such rejection himself. And we talked a lot about this issue. We exchanged ideas, and we also went to a synagogue and together, and he told me a lot about his Jewish tradition and culture, and I told him about mine. And but I think that's something we should all do, to share, to communicate, to be open, to feel free to ask and feel free to answer, and to create clarity. And because I don't only think that miscommunication leads to complications, but no communication at all too. So I think that's a decent way to start from.
Yeah, I have huge friends. Wie sagt man das? Also,
Jewish.
Yeah?
Jewish friends.
Yeah, Jewish friends, because my old brother, the oldest one, works in the huge hospital. And yeah, for me, that's normal, because I don't care what you believe or which religion you believe, because the important thing, are you a good woman or not?
So just so our audience just has like more context, and also myself, because I probably need it as well. What areas are you from in and around Berlin? Can you tell me where you're from? And is the area you're from like multicultural with a significant Jewish population? Because I think that's kind of what my question was, like whether this film, the way that Wedding is in this film, where there's only, this one Jewish boy that we see, is that what it's like for you where you're from, or was this movie the first time where it was that kind of experience?
I'm from Berlin, Spandau, which is like, I don't know, it's just like a little bit like from the suburbs. There are people who are from different nationalities, people who have different beliefs and come from different cultures. And that's the great thing about Berlin. I think that it's multicultural. And in my case, I how do I say it? Like I have a Jewish friend, and I don't have much Jewish friends, because I don't know, it's just maybe here where I live, maybe there are not many Jewish people, or maybe there are Jewish people who are afraid to tell their Jewish people. I mean, I don't know, and I hope that isn't the case, but I don't know. But if there are any people around me who are Jewish, they're always welcome. There's no such thing as rejection. I don't. It's not something I was raised with, and yeah.
Maybe I can say a word, Olivia?
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess if that's fine. I guess first of all, I'm the only Jew here who was raised in Berlin and has a different perspective, I guess, than Damir, Mohammed, or Doğan. And I can compare my life until the age of 13, because I was living in the same area Doğan just mentioned, Spandau. And afterwards, it was the age of 13 when I moved to Wedding. It's a totally different area. You have to understand that in the States, you have areas and big cities where Jews are very normal. You see them everywhere. You see Jewish stores, you see Jewish people, and in the States, it's very normal. In Berlin, you usually don't see any Jews in the streets, and Jewish, if it's synagogues or Jewish community centers, they have to be very much protected by the police and the state. It's very, very dangerous to show yourself in some parts of the city as a Jew. And I guess you have heard about anti-Semitism growing, they say, even in Germany and in Berlin, from all the different, political and religious communities, let's say. But if I look back, what happened, speaking about multiculturalism, so in Spandau, it was when I was in 6th grade, it was out of 30 boys and girls, you had 22 Germans, and the other 8 were, one Persian, that was me, 2 Turks, one Yugoslavian, another one half Black. That was like the multicultural thing. But once I moved to Wedding, it was not multicultural anymore. It was one dominant culture. It was the Middle Eastern, let's call it Muslim, Arab, Turkish culture. And if you look at the streets and the schools, if you look at the schools in my 10th grade, for example, you had out of, let's say, 30 kids, you had 29 Muslims. So I was the only Jew, and my brother was the only Jew 7 years after me. And in such an atmosphere, you have to see how to survive, because it's like Israel in the Middle East, you're the only one, and you have to look around you, and you have to see that you're in an area where not everyone is a Jew, is not everyone like Doğan and Mohammed here, who are raised with tolerance and with, everyone is equal. But unfortunately, and that's basically the story of my book, is that once my neighborhood understood that I'm a Jew, I was rejected, and I was hated, and I was living in danger, even though I didn't do anything to nobody. If you look today, because the story plays today, even though my book speaks about the 90s, today is no different situation. You have, let's call it ghettos, areas which are different than the suburb, let's say, where Doğan is coming from, where people live together, basically, even though his area also there's things happening, like last week, Doğan, maybe, Rathaus Spandau, where a Jew or someone was, have you heard about it? Was in the middle of the street, was boxed and treated in hospital afterwards because he was not ready to say Free Palestine. Have you heard about that? It was in your area. So never mind, but even today in Wedding, there's no, to sum it up, I wouldn't recommend a Jew, a 16 or 17 or 18-year-old Jew in a neighborhood like Wedding to show himself to other people as a Jew. It could be very, very, very dangerous for him and his family, unfortunately.
I think the information you both shared is just very relevant for our audience to know, to understand where you're all coming from, and also what the situation is there now. So Damir, I wanted to talk about, some of the changes in Dohar's character, because it seems like there's a turning point where we watch him get into more and more trouble and his crimes become more grave. And there's a point in the film where the father just shows this compassion that's so very beautiful, because even though his son, is getting into so much trouble, and this is just very much not the way he was raised, he shows compassion. We see that scene where he's taking care of his son. And it's at that point where all of the things that were maybe being suppressed seem to bubble up, and the character decides that he's really now going to embrace his Jewish background and he's not going to hide anymore. So can you talk about that pivotal point in the film? And then Dohan, you can also add to that after Amir lets us know his choices there.
The real story of Arye is, I read his book many times and we talked a lot. And Arye had some friends where he, from the beginning, said, I'm Jewish. It was not a problem. And here I changed it because you have a filmic story and it's not a documentation. It's something, you know, you have characters which have to develop and you have to find also incidents and the structure of 50, 60 scenes where you go forward. And so I thought the moment where this character says, okay, I am Jewish and I'm not going to hide it anymore, was one of the most important scenes in the film.
That's what Swirl is going through in the film. Towards the end of the film, he starts to reflect on everything he has experienced so far. He starts to understand and to question what is right, what is wrong, and that it's not always an easy process. It's pain, doubt, and disappointment are part of this experience. And he realizes that at some point in his life, he has to learn to stand by himself, to find himself, to be true to himself, and to accept himself. And this also includes finding his place in life and fighting for what's important, no matter what that may be. But this is exactly what Cyril is learning and is putting into practice. And this is a journey we all have to go through in life, especially at these young ages. I'm also on this path, and I'm also far from being the artist I want to be and far from being the person I want to be. But I'm trying to become the best version of myself every day. But that's also a process. And I think Cyril is also going through that process.
You know, we watch him in the library and he's talking to that older woman and telling her, you know, that Israel's just caught in the middle of all of this. And he seems very sure and very certain at that point that he's really starting to understand and he's really starting to sympathize with Israel and feel that that's really where he should be. And essentially he ends up there.
Regarding your question, what I liked also very much about Arye's book, and because I'm not Jewish, but there was a lot of things that I liked about it and where I could also find something like a bond between myself and also his character. And what I liked very much, what impressed me very much, was at the beginning that Arye was not at all religious. He was only, that's how I understood it, is he wanted to make friends there and just play soccer. And he was in a way, he was forced to be Jewish because everybody told him, you're Jewish. Okay, then you're not my friend anymore. Now you're my enemy. Why? Because you're Jewish. But what does it mean? So he was forced to go through this development. And that's something that I wanted to also to show in the film with this one scene.
Yeah, because a lot of us, I mean, growing up, for me personally, even though I was a Russian Jew, I didn't like intentionally think about being a Russian Jew. You know, I had friends that were Jewish, I had friends that weren't Jewish. And I always, you know, just thought of myself as a person who was Jewish, but it wasn't the leading thing about me. It wasn't the most important thing about me. And then as I got older and I realized what does being Jewish mean, especially in this professional setting where I'm running a Jewish film festival and I'm exposed to hundreds of Jewish stories and Jewish experiences. Now, the idea of being Jewish is always on my mind. I'm always thinking about what it means to be Jewish. How is this a part of my identity? And it's very interesting that once being Jewish became the central way that Arye was being defined and evaluated or judged by people, that's when he realized, you know, this being Jewish seems so important to everybody else. What is it? How am I connected to this? So my question to Arye is that true the way it happened in the film, that it led to this sort of journey of self-discovery for you? So did Damir pick up on that and portray that accurately?
When I look back at my youth, I was born in Germany and my parents are from Iran. If you would have met me with the age of 10 or would have visited my home, you would have seen Persian carpet, Persian music, Persian food, Persian pictures, everything Persian. So I was basically a German Persian guy. There was nothing, absolutely nothing about me being a Jew. I had no Jewish friends. I didn't speak Hebrew. We didn't take Shabbat or kosher or Jewish festivals or Jewish holidays. I didn't go to the Jewish community. I didn't have an Israeli passport. Like basically nothing made me a Jew. But once it was the age of 13 when I outed myself, you know, when I said that, you know, when people started asking me, what are you? Where are you from? And I said, my parents are from Iran. And they said, yeah, but are you're a Muslim like us? And I said, no, I'm not a Muslim. My parents are Jewish, but it doesn't mean anything to me, you know? So once I said that I'm Jewish, it didn't interest anybody around me if I'm as at least some of them as my enemy, and some of them didn't want me to be in their neighborhood. It was such a situation where you don't even understand what's happening around you and why people are starting to spit at you and pushing you and beating you and talking dirty to you. You start, first of all, you start fearing for your life and for your little brother and sister's life. You start looking around you all the time. You start actually also going around with weapons. You know, I had a knife in my pocket. I had a gun in my pocket. You have to understand, it was the age of 15. I was walking in the streets of Berlin like I'm in war. But once I became friends with some parts of the gang members and the clan members in Wedding, I thought that I integrated myself not into Germany of the German people, but into the Germany of the Middle Eastern people. So, but it didn't matter how much I tried, because there were always people, unfortunately, around me who always, you know, said bad words about Jews and about Israel. And once I turned older, it started bothering me every day more and more, because I asked myself, are these people around me the people I want to be my friends, my real friends? You know, are these people real? Do I want my children one day to all the time be alone against everybody for no reason? You know, I just wanted to be free. I just wanted to live in freedom. I just wanted to be a friend of everybody. I didn't do anything to nobody around me, but I was judged for no reason. And that I moved away, that I basically left Berlin, you know, the place I grew up, the language, which is my first language. I left my friends, I left my girlfriend, I left my parents, my sister, my brother. I left university there. I basically everything behind and started a new life almost from zero in Israel, because I just couldn't deal with the hate anymore, and just wanted to live free as a Jew somewhere on earth where, you know, the first person who meets me is not asking me, who are you? What are you? Oh, what, a Jew? Oh, that's bad. I couldn't deal with it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable. I don't think anybody would appreciate having that be their experience every day. So the way that that's portrayed in the film, Damir, the relationship with Selma gets pregnant and she says to Sohail, please, you know, stay with me. Like, don't we mean a lot to you? Please stay with us and be the father to your child. But because of this desire to really not be in this atmosphere of judgment and hate and just needing to find out who you are, Sohail decides that he is going to go to Israel. So can you talk about those scenes at the end of the film where he makes this decision to leave despite, you know, having a chance to start a family with Selma?
Yes, I think first of all, I think it's very sad what Arye said, because it's his life, and that's very sad what happened to him. But also Arye said it was hell, but it was also heaven, and that's maybe the most important difference between Arye's life and our film, because if it was only about anti-Semitism, we couldn't make a film out of it, because this is, you know, this is very sad, and it's a political question, and also we have a society we have to fight against it. But in our film also it is about the friendship between the Jewish boy and the Arab boy and the Turkish girl. And it also happened in the wedding, what I read in Arye's book, and I met his friends. And this is a very important part for the film, that it's about friendship and about hope. And it did happen, and it happens today also. And I know also a Jewish boy who is right now in wedding, and the Muslims are friends, and they know he is Jewish. So it happens today, and it will hopefully also happen in the future. And for concerning regarding your question, the character invites Selma to go with him to Israel, but she says she cannot do it. And I was looking for it. Didn't happen in the reality. It didn't happen to Arye. But I was looking with the child, and I was looking for an image, for something metaphorical, which stands for the future, this child between those three characters, the Selma character, the Hussein character, and the Sohail character, something which will bind them together, so that you have kind of it's not a happy ending, but at least you see at the end that the film ends with the hug between the two friends, and that he marries Selma, and that they will be combined further. So what will happen to them is something that will take place in the head of the audience and the viewers.
There's two takeaways that I had in terms of you ending it with a way to still connect those three central characters, is just to show that even though Arye in real life went to Israel, you know, his upbringing in Wedding and the other places that he and his family lived outside of Berlin, you know, that's always going to be a part of him. His experience of who he was when he was a child, a teenager, going through all of these experiences, and the friends that he made and the exposure he had to these other cultures, all of that stayed with him. And one of the very last scenes we see, if not the last scene, is when he's he has his gun and he sees the Palestinians throwing rocks, and he's not shooting, he's just watching. And I think that as an audience member, you think that he sympathizes with what he's seeing. He's understanding that this is a much more complex, nuanced situation in Israel, and that now that he's experiencing it for himself, everything that led him to this moment is helping inform his understanding of this situation. So in a way, the past stays with him in his future, and also the future is what could be. So I wanted to know, what did you want the audience to take away from that scene, and what did you mean for it to imply about Sohail?
I think we have to be able to approach each other without denying the problems, but to see that the other part are also human beings. And as you said, Olivia, she just watches this, he doesn't shoot. And in that moment, he remembers his friendship, what he had. So if you look at the beginning with the young Palestinian boy, he watches Israeli soldiers, and they have masks. And for him, and they are very tall. And at the end, you have those Palestinians who also have masks. So what I wanted to realize and to show the audience is that in between those two scenes at the beginning and at the end, we see that those maybe enemies who have masks are in real life people with emotions, and that in a parallel universe, or maybe in a universe today, it is possible to have hope and also the friendship between those characters.
That's very important. It's funny that we made a movie that has a lot to do with violence, discrimination, hatred, and rejection in any form and shape. But me as a human being, I got the complete opposite in return, and that is love, warmth, security, belonging, and family. And that's something I really wanted to say, because that's what I as a human being got from this movie. And also regarding this movie we shot, I can only say that I hope it will be more than just a movie. I hope that this will be a project of peace, and I hope that the film will get the attention it deserves. And yeah, I always say cinema is a powerful and influential art form and a platform we should use carefully and truthfully. And so I hope that we can reach a lot of people and make them work a little bit on themselves and their prejudices if they had any before. And that's what I want to say.
Yeah, thank you very much. I agree with you. I think that this film could be used as a tool to have young people have these conversations, because there's a lot of young people that are afraid to talk about this. And maybe this film will inspire them to talk to their friends and talk to their parents. And Arye, can you speak to that last scene in the film? Like, what was your takeaway from that? Like, what do you ultimately think that specific scene implies about your character?
I don't know if it was clear, but Damir said my girlfriend in Berlin was not pregnant from me. So that's very important to me. You asked me about the differences between the book and the movie. And you can imagine that my wife today, she didn't like that last scene very much. You know, and not only her, but friends of her who were asking her, tell me, is your husband, does he have another child somewhere there in Berlin?
Right.
So no, it's just part of the movie. But you know, that last scene, for me, the last scene was what I always remember is basically that big hug, playing three characters. But the hug was not only was the three characters, but was everything and everybody I basically loved as a teenager. And everyone I was forced to leave was the age of 23. So every time, and I watched that movie, you know, dozens of times, and every time I watched the movie and even the trailer, and you have that hug scene, I can't stop crying. I can't stop holding myself again and again, because it touches me so much, because it every time throws me back, you know, over 20 years ago, 25 years ago, or 21 years ago now. And I remember how I and everyone who hated, but everyone who loved me as well. And it's very, very difficult to do such a thing. And when you ask me about that last scene, so that's my last scene, and I love that last scene. And what I take from the movie and what I take from my life, you know, I started almost from zero here in Israel. I was the Israeli army as well for 8 years. I'm still a spokesperson of the IDF in reserve duty. So I'm very much, I would say, maybe you could say I'm very much biased. I'm definitely on the Israeli side. And yeah, that's true. So I'm 100% on the Israeli side. There's no doubt about it. I'm very much because of my past, because of the hate I was confronted with, very good friends who were Muslims, if Arabs, Turks, Kurds, Lebanese. I love them. They loved me like a brother. So because I remember these days and I miss them, I live here in Israel, and my very best friends till the very day are Muslims. I'm always looking for a way to, on the one hand, protect Israel, defend the Jewish, reach out. I tried to speak, I tried to make friendship, just like before. And I'm dreaming about peace with the Palestinians, with the Lebanese, with the Iranians, with everyone around us, because, you know, just like I didn't want fights or war when I was 13 or 14, I still don't want fights and war now with 44. It's no difference in my attitude.
Yeah, thank you. Damir, obviously wedding is such a huge central character and force in the film. So I wanted to ask you about what was your process for the locations we see in the film, and just how did you use music to create this atmosphere in this world? of Sohail and the wedding tigers. So do you want to speak to that?
Yes, I think what I liked about the whole film and about the story is not only we talked a lot about the political issues, which is understandable, of course, but I like the story as a film, as a cinematographic process also. It's also a coming of age film. It's about a young boy who doesn't fit in any box. For as Arye wrote also in his book, for the Arabs he was Jewish, for the Jews he was criminal, and for the Germans he was a foreigner. And this film is also about a very important part of your life when you're a teenager, when you grow up, and about love and friendship and finding your own way. Where do I belong to? It's not only a Jewish question, it's also a question that everybody has. What is my part in this life? What is important for me? And so this is something that was for me at least as important as the political things. And I like very much about the story that it has so many opportunities for me as a filmmaker in terms of soundtrack, in terms of the sound design, and also the visuality and working with those very talented young actors who didn't act before that very often, and also the fight choreography that we had, which was also very important. And last but not least, what you said about the district wedding, which is a very a cinematographic district, very district where you have all those railroads and the bridges, and it's dirty, and but it's also very nice to photograph. And yeah, that was for me a whole process and a very interesting work.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you just tell me a little bit before we go about where this film has been shown, and has it been shown in Germany, and what is the reception there?
The film was shown in Germany in the cinemas, but we had a problem with the lockdowns, all the lockdowns and the COVID-19, and people don't go to the cinemas right now in Germany, except for James Bond and Dune. Mm-hmm. But we had a very good reception from the press, and internationally the film wasn't shown that much so far. I think you're the second festival that shows the film.
Well, that will probably change soon.
I hope so, because I think the film should be seen in the whole world, because it's a film that can also be seen by by Jewish people, by Muslim people, but also by Christians or agnostics, but anybody, because it's a metaphorical film also. And yeah, so far we had bad luck with the lockdowns, but I think it will change soon.
Yeah, I actually feel like this would be a great film to show in high schools.
Yeah, that's actually we're actually working on it. So there were a lot of schools coming to us and said, we watched our movie, and now we want you to come to the schools and talk about that, and to create clarity. And that's what we also want to do, and what we also actually did a few weeks before.
Yeah, I really think it's a great film. I know that our audience is going to love it. So what I'm going to have them do is, after they watch the film, I'm going to ask if they can share some of their comments so I can pass them on to all of you, and create a dialogue. Hopefully we can take the dialogue on the road as other Jewish film festivals show the film around the country. Yes. and other festivals as well. But thank you all so very much for this great film, for just being so passionate about your art and getting this story out there with integrity and thoughtfulness. And I do think this film brings a lot of hope. And I hope that people watching right now will tell their friends to check out Wet Dog at a film festival, movie theater, hopefully video sharing platform soon, for those that didn't get a chance to see it at the festival.
Just one thing, because I have voice, and I want to use my voice. And I just wanted to say that apart from that, we should accept the fact that none of us can choose our origin, our appearance, our nationality, our place of birth, our name, or whatever. And these things should not influence the decision whether or not to have anything to do with a person. It should be simply about humanity. And to have to say that over and over again in this modern world we live in is kind of sad. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say, and that we should start building bridges instead of tearing them down. And yeah, bridges that also have a great meaning in our movie. So that's what I wanted to say. Let's build bridges.
That's a wonderful thought to leave us on. And Damir, I think you did a great job with these actors that we have before us. I mean, obviously their takeaway from being a part of your film has been nothing but positive and inspirational. And I think that's due to how you approached this whole entire project and the love you gave to these young people. And I don't know, I'm hoping that it was as beneficial for you and Arye also for you to get the story out there for people to see. And thank you all. Thank you, Mohammed. I know you've been a little bit more quiet, but you know, we thought you were awesome, and we're looking forward to hearing what everyone says about the film.
Thank you, Olivia, also very much for your questions and for your warm words. And I'm happy that the film is going to be shown in Philadelphia and
on opening night.
Also in the theater or just online, or?
Yeah, in the theater. It's one of the best theaters in Philadelphia, actually. The Philadelphia Film Center.
Wow.
I would love to be there. Maybe.
Yeah.
Can you send us some pictures?
Yes, I will definitely send you pictures.
Please.
Thanks a lot for your support.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It really was great having you. I appreciate all of you doing this.
Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you.
All the best.
Have a good night.